You know, if you've ever worked in a restaurant, there's this very specific, very universal kind of terror.
Oh, I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. Like you could be having a totally normal Tuesday lunch rush, flipping burgers, wiping down counters, and then someone just whispers those two cursed words. Health inspector.
Oh man, just instant panic. It completely changes the atmospheric pressure in the room. The air just gets sucked out.
Exactly. Suddenly, everyone is frantically kicking runaway onions under the fridge, you know, scrubbing surfaces that haven't seen soap since, like, the Bush administration.
Totally.
And everyone's acting like they are the most diligent, rule-following employees on planet Earth. It's just that sheer, unadulterated panic of a surprise audit.
It's the worst feeling.
But what if we took that exact feeling, like that frantic, sweaty, onion-kicking panic, and we magnified it? What if instead of just a single kitchen, it was an entire town?
Now you're dealing with a much higher stakes kind of comedy.
Right. And instead of a health inspector with a clipboard, it was a secret government agent who actually has the power to send you to a frozen labor camp.
Yeah, that exact feeling of high stakes, sweaty, bureaucratic terror. I mean, that is the beating heart of one of the greatest satires ever written.
We are diving headfirst into Nicolai Gogol's 1836 Russian masterpiece, The Inspector General, also known as the Government Inspector.
Such a brilliant piece of work.
It really is. And let me tell you, for a piece of literature that is nearly 200 years old, the historical records, the literary critiques, and the psychological analyses we're unpacking today, I mean, they reveal a story that feels shockingly, almost painfully relevant to how humans operate right now.
Oh, absolutely.
So our mission today is to explore how a simple, almost absurd case of mistaken identity exposes the hilarity, the hypocrisy, and just the universal absurdity of bureaucratic corruption. By the time we finish this deep dive, you are going to see exactly why human nature, especially when it's cornered by its own guilt, just hasn't changed a bit in 2 centuries.
It really is a brilliant study in collective delusion. I mean, Gogol managed to capture something so fundamental about human nature, bureaucracy, and just the architecture of a lie. It completely transcends its 19th century Russian setting.
Yeah, but to really appreciate how this story came to be, we actually have to look at the man who wrote it. Because back in the 1830s, Nicolai Gogol was in a very dark place.
He really was.
He was in a severe financial crisis, he desperately needed money, and he had been commissioned to write a 5-act play. But he's just paralyzed by massive writer's block, just staring at a blank page with completely empty wallet.
And we really have to contextualize what writing a play meant in Russia in 1836. I mean, this is during the reign of Tsar Nicholas I.
Right.
This was an era of intense, suffocating state censorship.
Yeah.
The Tsar had established the Third Section, which was a notoriously brutal secret police force.
So he couldn't just write whatever he wanted.
Exactly. Writers were routinely exiled, imprisoned, or heavily censored for stepping out of line. So Gogol wasn't just facing writer's block, you know? He was facing the daunting task of writing something funny and engaging that wouldn't actually get him sent to Siberia.
Talk about high stakes.
Yeah.
So he turns to his friend, and this isn't just any friend. This is the legendary Russian writer Alexander Pushkin.
A pretty good friend to have.
Right. Gogol basically sends him an SOS. He says, look, I have no money, my family is struggling, and I have absolutely no ideas. Help me out.
Yeah.
And Pushkin just hands him this golden nugget of an idea. It was actually based on a true anecdote Pushkin had heard, and possibly even experienced himself, about a man being mistaken for a powerful government official in a small provincial town.
And from that single brilliant seed, Gogol cultivated the Inspector General.
Yeah.
But to understand why that seed grew into such a chaotic story, we need to paint the picture for you of where this takes place.
Oh, please do. The setting is everything here.
So imagine a remote, hopelessly corrupt Russian provincial town. We are talking about a place so isolated, so completely off the mat, that the mayor of the town himself famously declared...
I love this quote.
He says, "You could ride a horse for 3 years and not reach a foreign country."
It perfectly encapsulates the physical and psychological isolation, like it's just a total bubble.
Precisely. And in this bubble, the mayor and his officials are the undisputed kings. To understand their mindset, you have to understand Peter the Great's table of ranks.
Right, the whole hierarchy thing.
Exactly. It was the foundational structure of Russian society at the time. Your rank dictated your entire existence. Your salary, your social standing, who had to bow to you, and who you had to bow to.
Sounds exhausting.
It was. And in this remote town, these officials are at the very top of the local food chain. They answer to no one locally. The peasants are beneath them. The merchants are just there to be exploited. And the higher-ups in St. Petersburg are 1,000 miles away.
So they've basically been running this town like their own personal piggy banker for years without any fear of consequence.
Exactly.
Until the day the letter arrives. The play kicks off with this explosive, inciting incident. The mayor of this town, a guy named Anton Antonovich, calls an emergency top-secret meeting of all the town's highest officials.
You could just picture the scene.
Right. These wealthy, comfortable, corrupt men being dragged out of their beds or their taverns into a room by a very pale, very sweaty mayor.
The tension must have been suffocating.
Totally. So the mayor stands at the head of the table and holds up a letter he just received from his good friend back in the capital. And the news is just the stuff of nightmares. The government in St. Petersburg is sending an inspector to their district.
Oh.
But he's not just an inspector. The letter specifically says he is traveling with secret orders and he is traveling incognito.
And that word right there, incognito, that is the spark that lights the powder keg.
Let's think about how Tsarist bureaucracy actually functioned.
Oh, it functioned on ceremony, on outward displays of obedience, and on, frankly, predictable graft. If an inspector were arriving in an official carriage with heavily armed guards and imperial banners, the town could prepare.
Because they know how to play that game.
Exactly. They would roll out the red carpet, give him a lavish banquet, hand him a heavy bag of gold, and send him on his way with a glowing report. But an incognito inspector? That breaks all the rules of engagement.
It totally upends their entire corrupt ecosystem. Because an incognito inspector could be anyone.
Literally anyone.
He could be the man sitting next to you at the tavern.
Yeah.
He could be the merchant you just shook down.
Yeah.
He could already be walking the streets taking notes on every pothole and every stolen ruble.
The paranoia is instantaneous, and Gogol illustrates this beautifully with the mayor's psychological state. The mayor tells the officials about a terrifying, anxiety-induced dream he had the night before the letter arrived.
The rat dream.
Yes, the rat dream. He dreamt of two huge, unnaturally black rats. He says they came, they sniffed around, and they left.
It's such a striking, creeping metaphor. Like his subconscious knew the reckoning was coming before the mail even arrived.
It is a classic manifestation of repressed guilt. I mean, the mayor is a man who has spent 30 years outsmarting everyone, skimming off the top of every public works project, crushing any local dissent.
A real seasoned pro.
Right. But the moment his control is threatened by an external force, his mind immediately goes to a place of superstitious dread. He sees giant black rats sniffing out his sins. Because beneath all his bluster and authority, there is a foundation of pure terror. He knows exactly what he is, and he knows exactly what his team is.
Oh, he absolutely knows what his team is.
Yeah.
Because he immediately launches into this frantic review of the town's institutions. And this is where we really get to see the anatomy of their corruption. It is just a roster of sheer, unadulterated incompetence.
It's so bad.
So he starts with the hospital, which is run by a man named Artemy Filipovich Zemlyanika, the charities director. The mayor is practically pulling his hair out describing the conditions. The patients are walking around so filthy they look like chimney sweeps.
And they're wandering the hall smoking strong, cheap tobacco. And the entire hospital absolutely reeks of cabbage.
Cabbage. Not antiseptic, not medicine, boiled cabbage.
Just terrible.
And the medical staff. The resident doctor doesn't speak a single word of Russian. He literally cannot communicate with the patients he is supposed to be treating. I mean, how do you even diagnose someone if you just stare at them and shrug in German?
Well, the short answer is you don't. And that's the dark reality beneath the comedy here. Zemlyanika's medical philosophy is absolutely chilling in its lazy brutalism.
Yeah, this part was wild.
He explicitly states that they don't use expensive medicines because the patients are just simple peasants. His exact philosophy is, if they are destined to die, they will die. If they are meant to recover, they will recover.
Wow. It's just a complete abdication of responsibility.
Yes, but he masks it as a sort of practical, naturalistic philosophy. In reality, it's just a way to pocket the medical budget.
Of course.
Why spend state funds on quinine or bandages for peasants when you can spend it on your own estate? The Tsar's system viewed peasants as expendable resources, and Zemlyanika simply takes that systemic apathy to its logical, localized extreme.
It's horrifying, but, Gogol's genius is making you laugh at the sheer audacity of it. Then the mayor turns his attention to the courthouse, overseen by the judge. Now, you would think a courthouse, the literal seat of imperial law, would maintain some basic level of dignity, right?
One would assume, but again, the physical environment totally reflects the moral environment.
The courthouse is currently functioning as a literal poultry farm.
It's so absurd.
The porters are raising geese and chickens right there in the waiting rooms. You have citizens coming in to file legal claims, and they are tripping over poultry. And the judge himself keeps his hunting whips stacked right on top of the legal files.
Which tells you everything you need to know about his priorities. The law is secondary. His leisure and his hunting dogs are primary. And the environment of the court is completely degraded. We learn about an assessor in the court who permanently smells like vodka, garlic, and onions.
And the excuse the judge gives for this is hilarious. He claims the man's nurse dropped him as a baby, and he's just smelled like a tavern ever since. You can't even make this stuff up.
Right.
But wait, it gets better. Let's talk about the judge's stance on bribery, because I found this absolutely fascinating. When the mayor confronts the judge about taking bribes, the judge doesn't even try to deny it.
No, not at all.
He openly admits it, but he has this incredible rationalization. He says, yes, I take bribes, but I only take greyhound puppies.
It is a brilliant piece of psychological compartmentalization. He has created a moral loophole for himself. In his mind, taking cold, hard cash is corrupt, but taking purebred hunting dogs as a gift is just a gentleman's perk.
Which is just wild logic.
It is. But it highlights how white-collar crime and corruption normalize themselves. Everyone in this town has convinced themselves that their specific brand of corruption isn't, real corruption. It's just how things are done. They've drawn these arbitrary lines in the sand to protect their own egos.
I mean, if you've ever worked in a corporate environment where people justify expensing lavish dinners because, the client needed to be wined and dined, but they would fire an intern for taking home a box of pens.
Yes.
Then you understand the judge's logic perfectly.
That's a great modern parallel, and we see similar dysfunction in the educational system. The mayor turns to the school's inspector and begs him to control his teachers.
Because the teachers are bizarre. One teacher constantly makes strange faces and pulls his beard whenever he sits down. But the absolute best one is the history teacher.
Oh, the history teacher's amazing.
He gets so dangerously excited when lecturing about Alexander the Great that he literally smashes chairs. He treats government property as his own personal ancient battlefield.
And why is the mayor so terrified of this? It's not just about the cost of the chairs. In the autocratic regime of Nicholas I, any deviation from complete, boring compliance looks like a threat to the states.
Just being too enthusiastic.
Yes, passion, even for ancient history, looks like dangerous radicalism. The mayor is terrified the inspector will see a teacher smashing a chair and write a report claiming the school is instilling rebellion and anarchy in the youth. Under the Tsar, boring was safe. Passion was treason.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But my absolute favorite official in this entire town has to be the postmaster. The mayor pulls him aside and essentially asks him to commit a federal crime.
Just a casual federal crime.
Right. He says, look, we need to know if anyone in town is writing letters to St. Petersburg to complain about us. Can you start secretly opening the mail?
And the postmaster's response is pure comedy gold, but it's also deeply revealing about the nature of surveillance.
He cheerfully reveals that he already opens and reads everyone's mail, but not for security reasons, not to protect the town or serve the state. He just loves reading the juicy gossip.
It's his favorite hobby.
He says it's better than reading the newspaper. He reads about people's parties, their love lives, their family drama, and if a letter is particularly entertaining, he just keeps it for himself.
This is such a profound detail. It shows the complete breakdown of civil rights, but not out of some Orwellian malice or totalitarian control. It's out of sheer boredom and a lack of professionalism.
Yeah, he's not an evil mastermind.
Exactly. The postmaster isn't a secret police agent trying to root out dissent. He's just a nosy neighbor who happens to have absolute control over the mail.
I have to jump in here and offer a thought, because looking at this entire roster, right? The cabbage hospital, the puppy-taking judge, the chair-smashing teacher, the gossiping postmaster. I don't see a terrifyingly oppressive organized crime syndicate here.
What do you see?
This is a circus. It's like a group project in school where absolutely everyone did zero work. They all assumed someone else was handling the research. And suddenly the teacher walks in and says, clear your desks, pop inspection. They aren't evil masterminds. They're just profoundly lazy.
I think you've hit on the exact genius of Gogol's satire. Systemic corruption is rarely about brilliant, diabolical villains orchestrating grand, flawless conspiracies.
Right.
It is almost always about sheer, banal incompetence protecting itself. These officials are surviving day to day on a mixture of petty theft, sheer luck, and the fact that nobody higher up in St. Petersburg has ever bothered to check on them.
And their luck just ran out. So the officials are in full panic mode. The mayor is trying to figure out how to put out 50 fires at once. And suddenly, the town's 2 resident busybodies burst into the room. Bobchinsky and Dobchinsky.
They are the classic provincial gossips. They are out of breath. They are literally tripping over each other's sentences, trying to be the first to deliver the news. And they announce that they have made a massive discovery. They have found the inspector.
And let's look at the evidence they present to the mayor, because it is the most magnificent leap of logic.
Also funny.
They were hanging out at the local inn, and they spotted a young man from St. Petersburg. His name is Ivan Alexandrovich Khlestakov. And why are they utterly convinced this random guy is the terrifying secret government agent?
Well, tell us.
First, he has been sitting at the inn for 2 solid weeks. Second, he is fiercely observant. They note that he was looking very closely at their plates of food while they were eating.
Very suspicious behavior.
Very. Third, he acts incredibly haughty and arrogant. And fourth, the absolute clincher for them, he refuses to pay his hotel bill.
It is the ultimate example of confirmation bias. To these terrified officials, who else but a powerful, untouchable government inspector would have the sheer audacity to sit in a hotel, eat and drink for 2 weeks, and refuse to pay a single cent?
Honestly, it's a fair question from their perspective.
Exactly. In their deeply corrupt worldview, the law doesn't apply to the powerful. Therefore, only someone with immense power acts with that level of impunity.
It's so true. They can't even fathom the idea that he might just be a broke deadbeat. In their minds, deadbeats get thrown in debtor's prison immediately.
Yeah.
This guy isn't in jail, therefore he must be above the law.
It's flawless bureaucratic logic.
The panic just immediately escalates to a fever pitch. The mayor realizes his town is a literal disaster zone and starts barking orders, giving us another glorious glimpse into how bad things really are. The streets are overflowing with garbage.
That's awful.
The police force, which should be cleaning this up, is completely useless.
Yeah, one of the police officers, a man named Derjamorda, was out drunkenly fighting with the very citizens he's supposed to be protecting. Another officer has been stationed on a bridge simply for looks, to give the illusion of law and order to anyone passing by. It's all a facade.
And the crowning jewel of the mayor's panic is the church project. The government allocated funds to build a new church 5 years ago.
And let me guess.
The mayor and his cronies obviously embezzled the money, and the church was never built. So the mayor gives everyone strict instructions on the cover story. He says, if the inspector asks, tell him we started building the church but it burned down.
It is the classic bureaucrat's lie. Blame an act of God for the missing funds. What is fascinating here is the mayor's psychological calculus in this moment of crisis.
What do you mean?
He is terrified, yes, but he didn't stay in power for 30 years by hiding under his desk. He is a survivor. He decides he cannot sit and wait for the inspector to come to him and uncover the garbage, the cabbage hospital, and the missing church. He must preemptively strike. He must go to the inn and confront the stranger directly.
And his reasoning for why he might actually pull this off is so telling. The busybodies mentioned that this Khlestakov is young, maybe 23 or 24 years old. And the mayor is actually relieved by this.
Which is interesting.
Right. He thinks if they sent an old, seasoned, cynical official, I'd be dead. An old guy would see right through me. But a young man can be flattered, a young man can be impressed by a uniform, and most importantly, a young man can be bribed.
He assumes Khlestakov is just a kid on a power trip.
Yeah.
He assumes Khlestakov wants to be treated like a big shot, and the mayor knows exactly how to play that game. So he puts on his full military uniform, grabs his ceremonial sword, and marches off to the inn to do damage control.
But here is where the town's paranoid fantasy collides head-on with a completely ridiculous reality. Because now we, as the audience, get to meet the real Khlestakov. We know the town thinks he's a terrifying secret agent with the power of the Tsar behind him, but who is this man sitting in the inn? Let me tell you, Khlestakov is a low-level, penniless, foolish, utterly insignificant clerk from St. Petersburg.
He is a nobody. If we look at the table of ranks we discussed earlier, he is at the very, very bottom. He copies documents for a living.
A complete nobody. He was traveling from the capital to visit his father in the country. But because he is an arrogant fool who desperately wants to act like a high society playboy, he stopped in a nearby town and gambled away every single penny of his travel money to an infantry captain.
Just threw it all away.
He lost it all. Now he and his cynical, street-smart servant, Osip, are stranded at this dingy inn in the middle of nowhere, and they are literally starving.
The contrast Gogol sets up here is just magnificent. The entire town is trembling at his supposed power, mobilizing to cover up decades of corruption. Meanwhile, Khlestakov is sitting in a freezing room, begging his servant to go downstairs and plead for table scraps.
This leads to the famous cabbage soup dispute. It is such a pathetic, funny scene. Khlestakov forces Osip to go ask the innkeeper for food on credit.
And the innkeeper is having none of it.
The innkeeper refuses because the bill hasn't been paid in weeks. Finally, the innkeeper caves just a little bit and sends up some watery cabbage soup and a piece of meat that Khlestakov complains is as tough as wood. He is miserable, he is hungry, and he is absolutely terrified.
And what is he terrified of?
The innkeeper. Khlestakov is convinced the innkeeper is going to report him to the local authorities for not paying his bill and that he will be thrown into a filthy debtor's prison.
Right.
He is pacing the room, imagining the humiliation of being dragged off by the police. So you can imagine his reaction when the door to his room suddenly flies open and the mayor of the town actually walks in wearing a full military uniform and a sword.
We're entering arguably one of the greatest scenes of dramatic irony and misunderstanding in all of comedic literature. You have two men in a tiny room, both absolutely petrified of the other, but for entirely different reasons.
Let's really break this down, because the dialogue is a masterclass in crossed wires. Khlestakov's fear is entirely localized to his unpaid hotel bill. He thinks the mayor is there to arrest him.
Makes sense.
So his defense mechanism kicks in. He decides to yell, to bluster, to act outraged. He screams that the food is terrible. He threatens to write to the minister in St. Petersburg. He yells that he absolutely refuses to go to jail.
And the mayor, hearing this young man yelling about writing to the minister and refusing to be treated poorly, misinterprets it completely.
Of course he does.
The mayor thinks the inspector is furious about the terrible condition of the town, the garbage in the streets, and the awful treatment he's received at this substandard hotel. Every angry word Khlestakov shouts about his hotel bill, the mayor interprets as a threat of exile to Siberia.
The mayor is physically trembling. Khlestakov is yelling about bad beef and fishy-tasting tea, and the mayor is practically on his knees apologizing profusely for the beef. He's swearing the local market usually has great meat and begging him not to ruin his lice. The mayor is terrified he is going to lose his rank, his wealth, and his freedom over tough meat.
It is a perfect feedback loop of panic. Khlestakov's genuine, pathetic desperation looks to the mayor like the righteous fury of an untouchable official. And the mayor's guilty, groveling apologies look to Khlestakov like a bizarrely aggressive, terrifying local police tactic.
And then comes the exact moment the entire dynamic shifts. The pivot to bribery.
The crucial moment.
The mayor, desperate to calm this furious inspector down before he writes a report to the Tsar, tentatively offers a loan. He basically stammers out, "Your Excellency, this hotel is beneath you. Let me loan you some money to clear your debts here, and please come stay at my own house where I can properly host you."
This is the crux of the play, the hinge on which the entire plot turns. Khlestakov, who was expecting handcuffs and debtor's prison, is suddenly being handed cash by the man he thought was going to arrest him.
It's unbelievable.
And because Khlestakov is fundamentally shallow, self-centered, and honestly not particularly bright, he doesn't question the logic of this at all.
Not for a second. He thinks, oh wow, this is just a really generous local custom. The mayor is an incredibly nice guy who just loves helping stranded travelers. He happily takes the money. His whole demeanor changes, and he agrees to move to the mayor's house.
And the mayor's reaction? A massive internal sigh of relief. He thinks, I did it. I successfully bribed the inspector. I bought him off. He took the money, which means he's corruptible. My life is saved.
It's a transaction where both parties walk away believing a completely different reality. The mayor assumes he has purchased complicity and silence. Khlestakov assumes he has just gotten incredibly, inexplicably lucky. Neither one sees the truth.
And this sets the stage for Khlestakov's integration into the town's elite circle. He packs up his meager belongings and moves into the mayor's luxurious home.
Which brings us to the phase of the story I like to call the parade of bribes. Because now that the mayor has the inspector secured in his home, the town goes into full performance mode. They take Khlestakov on an institutional tour.
They treat him like royalty.
They really do. They take him to the hospital. And remember, this is the hospital with the cabbage smell, the filthy patients, and the doctor who only speaks German. Suddenly, the patients are nowhere to be seen, and they feed Khlestakov a lavish, massive feast right there in the hospital dining room.
Naturally.
They pour him the best wine. They show him only the most carefully curated, heavily sanitized sights of the town. And Khlestakov, whose ego is expanding like a balloon by the minute, just happily goes along with it.
It's incredible that he doesn't catch on.
Right. He doesn't look around and think, wow, they're obviously covering up a corrupt hospital to impress me. He thinks, wow, I am naturally so charming and handsome that these provincial hicks are throwing me a feast.
His narcissism is his armor. It prevents him from feeling any suspicion. If you believe you deserve to be treated like a king, you don't question it when people start bowing. And this leads to the sequence that exposes the dark, rotten heart of the town's corruption. The shakedowns.
The mayor has instructed all his top officials to visit the inspector privately, one by one, to pay their respects and to offer their own loans. It's basically an extortion racket, but the victim is the one doing the extorting, and he doesn't even realize he's running a racket.
Let's look at the judge, Amos Fyodorovich. He is the first to go in for his private audience. This is the man who boldly claimed he only takes greyhound puppies. The man who keeps hunting whips in his court.
The tough guy.
He is so terrified of this young man sitting in the mayor's living room that when he enters, his hands are shaking so badly, he actually dropped his bribe money on the floor.
And the judge freezes. He thinks his life is over. He dropped the bribe. The inspector sees the money. It's proof of corruption. He is waiting for Khlestakov to yell for the guards.
But he doesn't.
But Khlestakov, who is just a broke clerk who likes money, casually looks down and says, "Oh, is that money? Hey, my travel expenses have been crazy lately. Could I borrow 300 rubles?
The relief the judge feels in that moment is immense. The transaction is complete. The inspector took the money, he hands over the cash, and flees the room, feeling absolutely victorious. He thinks he just outsmarted the imperial government.
And this pattern just repeats on a loop. The postmaster comes in, terrified, and Khlestakov asks for a loan. The school's inspector comes in, shaking like a leaf, and hands over hundreds of rubles. It's just a conveyor belt of cash.
But here is where it gets deeply revealing about the sociology of corruption. It's the total lack of loyalty among these officials.
Yeah.
They're supposedly a team, right?
Yeah, thick as thieves.
They've been stealing together, running this town together for years, but the second they get a private audience with the inspector, they turn on each other.
It's the ultimate prisoner's dilemma, and they all choose to defect immediately. Vimlyanika, the charities director, the guy running the cabbage hospital, he comes in and immediately starts snitching.
It's ruthless.
He tells Khlestakov that the postmaster does absolutely no work and just sits around reading people's mail. He reveals that the judge is having an affair with Dobchinsky's wife. He even offers to write all of this down in a formal, sworn report for the inspector to take back to the authorities in St. Petersburg.
Self-preservation overrides any sense of camaraderie. It reveals the fragility of their alliance. Their community is built entirely on shared guilt, mutual benefit, and the absence of oversight. The moment an external threat appears, or at least the illusion of an external threat, that community instantly fractures. They are willing to destroy each other to save themselves.
And it's not just the elite officials who get in on the action. The local town merchants get wind of this powerful government inspector staying at the mayor's house, and they sneak in through the back door to see him.
They want a piece of the action.
They come bearing physical gifts, loaves of sugar, expensive wine, and literal trays of cash, begging Khlestakov for protection.
Protection from whom?
From the mayor. The merchants reveal that the mayor relentlessly steals from them. If he walks through the market and sees a nice fabric in their shop, he just takes the whole bolt. If he wants food, he takes it. He treats the merchants like his personal pantry and wardrobe.
Just awful.
They are pleading with Khlestakov to use his imperial power to save them from this local tyrant. And Khlestakov, of course, graciously takes their sugar, drinks their wine, pockets their money, and vaguely promises to look into it.
This is a crucial point in the narrative. Khlestakov is hearing all these confessions of deep systemic rot. He's being handed thousands of rubles by terrified men. He's being asked to intervene in local politics and stop a tyrannical mayor.
Which brings up a massive question. I have to push back a little on the mechanics of this, because surely Khlestakov isn't this dense. Why doesn't he realize what is happening earlier?
It's a fair question.
It's like someone walking onto a movie set. They see the cameras, they see the director yelling action, they see the boom mics, and yet they genuinely think they have been crowned the actual king of England. How does he not see the cameras?
To take your movie set analogy further, the townspeople are the crew. They know it's a movie set, but they are so terrified of being fired by the studio that they refuse to tell the actor the cameras are fake. Their fear actively subsidizes his delusion. The answer lies in the perfect, toxic symbiosis between the town psychology and Khlestakov's psychology.
Explain that.
The town is blinded by their own guilt and fear. They have created a psychological mold of a terrifying, powerful, corruptible inspector, and they are desperately trying to force Khlestakov into that mold.
Okay, right.
And Khlestakov is blinded by his own immense, fragile ego. He is a nobody clerk who desperately wants to be an important, powerful person, so when the town treats him like one, he doesn't question it because he feels he inherently deserves it. Their blinding fear meets his blinding narcissism. It's a lock and key. He doesn't see the movie set because he's too busy admiring his own reflection in the mirror they've provided.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. He's not analyzing the situation, he's just absorbing the adulation. Which leads us perfectly into the absolute centerpiece of the story. The moment Khlestakov fully embraces the fantasy. Let's talk about the delusions of grandeur and the famous 700-ruble watermelon.
Oh, this scene is a masterpiece of comedic escalation.
Khlestakov is drunk.
Yeah.
He has been drinking heavily all afternoon at the hospital feast. He is stuffed with rich food. His pockets are literally bulging with extorted rubles. And he is sitting comfortably in the mayor's living room. He's surrounded by the mayor's wife Anna, and his daughter Maria. And drunk on wine and this newly discovered absolute power, Khlestakov begins to brag.
And he doesn't just brag about his job. He spins a web of the most absurd, specific, and easily disprovable lies imaginable. He creates an entirely fictional life for himself in St. Petersburg.
The details he comes up with are phenomenal. He claims he is best friends with Alexander Pushkin. He says they slap each other on the back and chat about how hard life is. He claims he secretly writes famous operas and books under a pseudonym. He says he lives in a house in St. Petersburg that is so incredibly famous that everyone on the street points it out.
The culinary lies are particularly revealing about his mindset. He claims he hosts parties where he serves watermelons that cost 700 rubles each.
I want to pause on that because we need context. A 700-ruble watermelon. To put that in perspective, in the 1830s, a Russian peasant might make 30 or 40 rubles in an entire year.
Exactly.
He is claiming to serve fruit that costs 20 times a man's annual salary.
Yeah.
It's like someone today casually saying, "Oh yeah, at my parties I serve million-dollar apples."
It's completely unhinged, and he follows it up by saying he has soup shipped to him daily on a special boat straight from Paris. He claims you just open the lid and the authentic steam of Paris fills the room in St. Petersburg.
I'm pretty sure the logistics of a hot soup boat from Paris to Russia in the 1830s are highly questionable.
Just a bit. The soup would take weeks to arrive. It would be a biological weapon by the time it reached his table.
But he just keeps going, faster and faster. He says he plays cards regularly with the French, British, and German ambassadors. And then the grand finale of his monologue. He claims that once, the state ministry didn't know what to do because the director was gone, so 35,000 messengers stood outside his door, begging him to take over the entire government. 35,000 messengers.
It's a child's idea of what power and wealth look like. It's completely unmoored from reality. It's what a broke clerk thinks aristocrats do all day.
Which brings up the most baffling part of this whole interaction. Knowing how ridiculous these lies are, why do the mayor and his family believe him?
It seems crazy, doesn't it?
They're sitting there listening to a 23-year-old clerk slur his words about hot soup boats and 35,000 messengers, and the mayor is literally trembling with fear, addressing him as, "Your Excellency." The wife and daughter are swooning. How are they this gullible? Are they just stupid?
They aren't stupid. They're compromised by their own desires. They believe him because they need to believe him. The mayor, Anna, and Maria are suffering from an intense provincial inferiority complex.
Oh, that makes sense.
They live in this remote, muddy town, and they are desperate, absolutely starving for a connection to the glamorous, aristocratic capital of St. Petersburg. Khlestakov is offering them a direct pipeline to that world, however absurd his description of it might be.
It's the emperor's new clothes phenomenon on a civic level.
Exactly. To question his lies would be to pop the bubble of their own aspirations. If they admit his story about the watermelon is fake, they have to admit they aren't hosting a powerful aristocrat. They willingly suspend all disbelief because the fantasy is too intoxicating to reject.
They want to believe it so badly that critical thinking just leaves the building. And Khlestakov, riding this massive wave of adulation and wine, leans hard into the romance of the situation. He starts heavily flirting with both the mayor's wife, Anna, and the daughter, Maria.
At the same time.
In the exact same room. He's kissing hands, he's falling to his knees, he's making grand declarations of love, bouncing between the mother and the daughter. Eventually, after a chaotic sequence of events, he officially proposes marriage to the daughter, Maria.
And we must look at the mayor's reaction to this proposal, because it is electric.
He is ecstatic. He doesn't see a drunk, lying grifter hitting on his daughter. He sees a golden ticket. The mayor suddenly envisions a future where his new son-in-law elevates him to the rank of general in St. Petersburg.
The ultimate dream.
He dreams of wearing a prestigious blue or red ribbon across his chest, the ultimate symbols of state power. He literally daydreams out loud about how lesser officials will have to stop and make way for him in the streets, and how he will eat the finest delicacies. His greed and ambition completely overtake whatever survival instinct he had left.
But there is one person in this entire narrative who is not blinded by fear, greed, or ego.
Yes, the unsung hero, or at least the only guy with an ounce of street smarts, Osip, Khlestakov's servant.
The voice of reason.
Osip looks around at this madhouse. He sees the thousands of rubles his master has collected. He sees the feasting. He sees the terrified officials. And he realizes with absolute certainty that the town has made a massive catastrophic mistake. And more importantly, Osip knows that eventually the real inspector might show up, or the town will sober up, do the math, and figure out the con.
Osip understands the mechanics of a grift better than the grifter himself. He knows that the window for escaping with their lives and the money is rapidly closing. If they stay, they will end up in a Siberian prison.
So Osip pulls Khlestakov aside and essentially says, "We have to run, right now, today. Take the money, take the gifts, and let's go." And Khlestakov, maybe sobering up just a tiny bit, agrees. He goes back to the mayor and spins one final convenient lie.
Of course he does.
He says he must urgently go visit his wealthy uncle in the country for a day or two to get a blessing for the marriage. He promises he will be right back.
And the mayor, completely bought in, facilitates the escape of his own extorter.
He takes the best, fastest postal horses the town can provide, gets one last hefty loan for the road from the mayor, and flees town in a cloud of dust, his carriage weighed down with extorted cash, sugar, and wine.
Leaving the town to bask in their false victory, which sets the stage for the devastating unmasking.
The scene right after Khlestakov leaves is just dripping with dramatic irony. The mayor and his wife are doing a premature victory lap. They're on top of the world. The mayor summons the local merchants, the ones who dared to sneak in and complain to Khlestakov earlier, and he treats them like absolute dirt.
He's awful to them.
He gloats. He tells them they are nothing, that he's going to be a general in St. Petersburg, and he promises brutal, ruinous revenge on anyone who dared to speak against him.
They are demanding massive, exorbitant gifts from the merchants for the upcoming wedding. They are planning a life of elite luxury. They have fully, unreservedly bought into the delusion. They think they are invincible.
And then the bubble bursts. The door flies open, and it's the postmaster. He is breathless, he is shaking, and he is clutching a piece of paper.
Remember his favorite hobby.
Exactly. The postmaster, who opens everyone's mail for entertainment, couldn't resist opening a letter that the inspector handed him right before jumping in his carriage. Khlestakov, thinking he had just pulled off the funniest prank in history, had written the letter to a journalist friend back in St. Petersburg to tell him about this crazy town full of idiots. And the postmaster, out of sheer habit, broke the seal and read it.
And what he read destroyed their entire reality in an instant.
The postmaster reads the letter aloud to the room full of horrified officials. It is the climax of the story. Khlestakov explicitly states in the letter that the town mistakenly thought he was a government inspector. And then he ruthlessly, specifically mocks every single one of them.
The insults are incredibly pointed. He perfectly targets their insecurities.
They are brutal. He calls the mayor stupid as a gray gelding. He calls the postmaster a drinking scoundrel. The charity director, Zemlyanika, the guy who fed him the hospital feast and snitched on his friends. Khlestakov calls him a pig in a skullcap. And the school's inspector. He writes that he smells heavily of onions.
It is a devastating moment. They aren't just exposed as corrupt. They are exposed as absolute fools. They have been played, extorted, and humiliated by a boy they all secretly considered intellectually beneath them.
The mayor's breakdown here is tragicomic. It's funny, but you almost feel a tiny pang of pity for the guy. He has a total meltdown. He cries out that he has been in government service for 30 years. He has survived regime changes. He has outsmarted hundreds of thieves, swindlers, and con artists.
He really had a good run.
He says he has even outsmarted 3 different provincial governors. And yet, after a lifetime of cynical maneuvering, he has been completely duped by a frivolous, empty-headed young boy with a smooth tongue.
And what stings the most is his realization of the legacy of this event.
Yes, because Khlestakov sent the letter to a journalist. The mayor realizes that a writer is going to turn this entire humiliating disaster into a comedy, which, meta moment, Gogol literally did, and the whole world is going to point and laugh at him. In a moment of pure despair, the mayor turns to the audience, breaking the fourth wall, and yells, "What are you laughing at? You are laughing at yourselves." It's a stunning moment of self-awareness that comes far, far too late.
It's Gogol turning the mirror on the Russian public, but he doesn't let the characters off the hook with just humiliation. There is one final twist to the knife.
The officials are reeling. They are furious. They immediately start turning on Bobchinski and Dobchinski, screaming at them for starting the rumor in the first place. The room is descending into chaos, shouting and finger-pointing, and then the door opens one last time.
A gendarme enters the room, and we need to clarify what that means. This isn't a local beat cop. A gendarme was an armed officer of the state, often associated with the Tsar's third section, the secret police. Their presence means the full, terrifying weight of the imperial government has arrived.
The gendarme stands tall, looks at the terrified crowd, and announces to the room, an official from St. Petersburg, sent by imperial order, demands your immediate presence at the inn.
The real inspector has arrived.
Boom. And that is where the narrative ends. The historical texts note that this leads to the famously innovative mute scene. Upon hearing this announcement, every single character on stage freezes in absolute shock. They hold this frozen, silent, terrified pose for over a full minute as the scene ends.
It is a masterful, haunting conclusion. The silence forces the viewer, or in our case, you, the listener, to sit with the crushing weight of the revelation.
So if we pull all these threads together, what does this deep dive show us? The literature gives us a story where no one is truly innocent. The town officials are deeply corrupt, parasitic administrators, but Khlestakov is a willing, greedy opportunist. It's a masterful satire showing how fear, guilt, and greed can completely hijack the intellect of otherwise smart people.
The mayor wasn't stupid. His intellect was just overridden by his own guilty conscience. Khlestakov wasn't an evil mastermind. He was just a mirror, reflecting the town's darkest fears and highest aspirations right back at them.
And it connects so deeply to us today. Think about it. If you ever had a VP visit your regional corporate office, and suddenly your manager is buying new plants for the lobby, hiding the broken printer, and demanding everyone look busy, you've lived in Gogol's town.
It's universally relatable.
We've all been in situations where collective panic, or the desperate desire to impress an authority figure, causes a group to believe or do something entirely foolish. We see what we are afraid of, and we see what we want to see.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. Think about that frozen moment, that silent mute scene. When the characters finally unfreeze and take a breath, and they have to go down to the inn to meet the real inspector from St. Petersburg. What happens next?
Ooh, good question.
Do you think this corrupt town will finally face justice, be stripped of their ranks, and go to Siberia? Or will they simply run the exact same playbook? Will they offer the feasts, the loans, and the flattery, and perhaps this time successfully buy off the real authority?
Now, there's a thought to keep you up at night. The clipboard is real this time, but the kitchen hasn't changed. Thank you for joining this deep dive into human folly. We hope you enjoyed the journey. Remember to stay curious, keep questioning the narrative, and maybe, just maybe, double-check the credentials of your next important guest.